the April meeting of the Planning Committee. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Civic Centre, a couple of things really. One, there are no fire alarms planned for today, so if there is an alarm, please follow the signs on the doors either side. Officers will assist if it does go off. The other thing for you to be aware of, if not already, is that this meeting is being webcast, broadcast on the internet, as it were, and therefore at any time you might be in shot or if you're talking you might be overheard. So please be aware of that. And for those members who are entitled to speak, when asked to do so, please speak clearly into your microphone so that it will be picked up by the system. Item 1 on the agenda really is about attendance and apologies. I mentioned that Councillor Ashley is in the building but not managed to stay in the chamber as yet. Are there any apologies that members wish to give? We've got a couple, I think. Norma?
Councillor Barry Taylor. Councillor
Barry Taylor. And the others are?
Councillor Veronica Quick and Councillor Wayne Tomlinson.
Okay. The attendance sheet is circulating, so please sign that. And here comes Councillor Ashley. Thank you. Declarations of interest. I'm going to ask Polly Ellis on my far right, who is a solicitor, to advise members on any declarations of interest. Polly?
Just firstly to remind members that you need to complete the declaration of interest form in the attendance register folder if you're declaring a personal interest in any application. The following personal interests have been declared to me prior to the meeting. Firstly, in relation to the report on the former Hillside School, Councillor Furzer and Councillor Evans have declared a personal interest but not a prejudicial interest because they have met the complainant on site as ward members. In relation to application 15P0098, the application for development at land at Lantarnham Comprehensive School, Councillor Morby has declared a personal interest as a governor at both Lantarnham Primary School and Lantarnham Comprehensive School. Councillor Cameron has a personal interest as her grandchild will be attending Lantarnham Sixth Form until June. Councillor Ashley and Councillor Powell have personal interests as they are both members of Cwmbran Community Council, which has been consulted on the application. Then application 15P00999, the application for development of land at Blenheim Road Community Primary. Councillors Ashley and Councillor Powell, again, both have a personal interest as they are members of Cwmbran Community Council, which has been consulted on the application. Application 15P00100, application for development of land at Station Road, Griffithstown, Pontypool. Councillors Ashley and Councillor Powell, again, have a personal interest as they are both members of Cwmbran Community Council, which has been consulted on the application. And Councillor Parish has a personal interest as she is a member of Pontypool Community Council, which has also been consulted on the application. And that's it.
Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Chair. I failed to admit that I've also got a grandson at Lannan Robins School as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Stuart. Sorry, I'm not putting my mic on. One correction I need to make. I'm not a governor of Lantarnham Comprehensive School governing body. I don't think it's particularly relevant, but I'm a governor of the temporary governing body for Cwmbran High School, which of course is the successor school to Lantarnham and Fairwater schools. Okay. So we'll go to the minutes of the planning meeting held on the 17th of March 2015. I'll go through it page by page for accuracy. So page 1, or page 5 as it appears on my screen anyway. Page 2/6. Page 3 or 7. Page 4 or page 8. Page 5 or 9. Page 6 or 10. And page 7 or 11. Any members got any comments on those minutes, or are you happy to approve those as a true record? Been moved and seconded by Councillors Seaborn and Waite that they are a true record. You're happy with that? Please show. Thank you. Okay, the next item is item 4, which is a report to consider the expediency of taking formal enforcement action in relation to plan discrepancy for the residential development of 54 dwellings on land at the former Hillside School, Hill Street, Glenavon. That's going to be subject of a presentation by Norman Jones, who's the team leader in the planning department. And sorry, I always forget something, don't I? Forgot to introduce people who are on the top table. Rachel Beale, who is the minute taker for this meeting. Richard Lewis, who is the head of development management in the planning department. Paul Wielden, who's the head of transportation. Norman Jones, who's the team leader with planning, as I've already mentioned, and sitting down there is Sarah Hensby, who's also a planning officer. So, over to you, Norman.
Thank you, Chair. As you see, this item deals with the development of the former Hillside School site for 54 dwellings, which was subject of committee resolution in December 2013 and was subsequently approved in May 2014 following completion of Section 106 agreement. In the report states that in July 2014 the planning department was made aware. However, we were made aware beforehand in May of concern with regard to publicity from the complainant. However, that was solely in relation to publicity. Our records were checked and the response went back via members that we were satisfied that the publicity had been carried out properly and records showed that the property had been consulted, and that via a letter dated 17th of October 2013, not 2014, as it says in the report. Now, this is the approved layout, and what we have is the complainant's property, a large detached dwelling indicated there. And the complaint that has been received recently, or in January, was that the position of these properties, plots 37 and plots 36, there was a discrepancy on the approved plan. However, the developers checked their setting out with their benchmarks taken from the hillside area, and they were satisfied that inside the site that the setting out was correct. However, they then did a detailed survey, taking survey points from the corners of the plot, which was already in the ground, and taken points from reference points of the corners of the dwelling. And what that, following that survey, the results of that survey showed that the position of the dwelling differed from that shown on the OS plan, which was used when the planning layout was submitted. And as you can see, the orange area shows the position of the accurate position of the surveyed dwelling. And effectively, it's shifted approximately 1.2 metres parallel to the gable end of plot 37. And those dimensions were 13.6 metres, just over 13.6 metres, and 1.1, just over 1.1 metre shift along that line, slightly further away from the approved plot, but shifted almost 1.2 metres. Now, this is the position on site currently. This is the position from the back of the dwelling that is currently being built. There's a difference in levels of 4 metres, and the complaint received was that the closeness of this property, plot 37, affected the window, which is behind the close boarded fence here, which is a kitchen window. And that was the main basis of the complaint received. And this, from an earlier photograph taken when the complaint was first received, is the position of the complainant's property, with this kitchen window being affected. This is currently the view from the kitchen window, and the edge of the dwelling is set back in this line. This is the scaffolding to afford access. However, and that's the view from inside the kitchen window. Now, this drawing has been prepared from the survey drawing, and as you see, the position of the kitchen window lines up roughly at the back end of the proposed dwelling. So that even though there's been this shift, effectively of 1.2 metres, it's still only in front of that dwelling at a distance of 13.6 metres. Now, given the difference in levels, we consider that to be acceptable situation in that it's not obscuring, it's not overbearing in terms of outlook. It's clearly a discrepancy, and that is acknowledged. So that's a view taken over the fence line. Now, since the report was published, we received comments from the complainant in response to the report. Firstly, there's a request for a site visit by planning committee, and that stating you can't judge the impact from the photos, and also stating that the proximity of the new property will be devastating. They've been at the property since 1989 and bought that property for privacy and outlook across the valley. The main concerns with poor consultation process, and they also feel the developers have been unhelpful. They feel they've been lied to and misinformed when planning had been passed when it actually hadn't. And they requested relocation of the properties, and Mellin did not consider that they wished to do that. They were informed by Mellin that the plans were based on an accurate survey. They state the inaccuracy is now proven, and they've asked for the plots to be relocated. However, they were told by Mellin that the scheme involved tree planting as a screen. However, they claim that there's not enough room. So they claim that the difference in 1.2 metres brings the development closer to the new houses, or brings the new houses closer to them, and also to the roadways in sight. They're exasperated by error on plans. It says it has a massive effect on privacy, outlook and value of their property. They feel their concerns were not listened to. The scheme poorly planned, and properties could have been built elsewhere on site. And they've invested a lot of money in their site and property, and the development has had a massive impact upon the value of their property. As you see from the report, the error or the discrepancy, there's the agents have come back to and said it's a genuine error. They took the property off the OS space, which is common practice. And for us to consider enforcement action, we'd have to consider it to be expedient to do so. Now, given the situation which is on site, being over 13.5 metres away from the window which is affected, and it's not directly in front of the window, there is an offset, plus the difference in levels, we consider that to be acceptable in planning terms. And the difference, which, if that position of the dwelling had been correctly shown at the time of the application, we would have been recommending the same to members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Norman. Members, you've heard that the complainant has asked for a site visit. That's been supported by the local members. So it's up to you now to decide whether or not to deal with the matter today or whether to agree to a site visit prior to it coming back to committee in due course. Councillor Cameron.
Well, the one question I thought I would ask is, would the recommendation have been any different had they known the true facts? And Norman ended his explanation with saying it wouldn't have been any different, so I don't feel it's necessary then to have another site visit.
Anyone else? Councillor Evans.
Yes, Chair, thank you for letting me come in. I, on behalf of my other ward colleagues, feel that a site visit would be very useful to get a better understanding. Although the pictures tell part of the story, I feel and my colleagues feel that a site visit would give us much more information and we could take on concerns about the implications and the effect of this on the complainant.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I support my ward colleagues' request for a site meeting. I think it's the only way that the issues that they can be appreciated is by seeing them in situ, and I would ask members to give that consideration. Thank you.
Okay. I suppose in procedural terms, somebody needs to actually say what they want to happen and move an amendment if appropriate. Councillor Evans?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to move that amendment that takes place.
And Councillor Furzer, I take it you are seconding that. So we've got an amendment that we have the site visit and bring back the question to the following meeting, which will be on May the 12th, we hope. The site visit would obviously have to take place between now and May the 12th. So what's your wishes? Well, it's been moved. Yeah? Does nobody else wish to speak on the matter? Oh, Councillor Wade.
Could I just say, Mr. Chair, that I read the report, and whether it's I'm not so intelligent, but it really confused me. It has pointed out a few more things on on what we've had today on the presentation, but I think that for us to get it right, we should have a site visit.
Okay, well, a number of people were nodding. Are you ready to vote on the amendment, which is that we defer this pending a site visit and bring it back to a future meeting? Okay, all those in favour of that amendment, please show. And against? That's carried, whatever the number is, sort of 10 to 1, I think. So we're hoping that the site visit can take place on the morning of the 5th of May. That's next Tuesday. So those of you, local members obviously, and other members, please try and keep that particular session free for this particular visit.
Chair, can I thank you and the members for that request?
Okay. Pleasure. Right, just wait for my machine to catch up. Agenda item 5, sorry, which is the Planning Appeals Report. This is basically for information. Does anybody wish to comment on the report, or are you happy simply to receive it? some murmuring to the effect that you're happy to receive it. I take that as your wish. Okay, that's noted. Thanks very much. Then agenda item 6, which is a report on the part demolition of the existing comprehensive school and erection of a primary school, including landscape engineering, parking and access works at the Lantarnham Comprehensive School site. This will be presented by Sarah, and there is a speaker about this after, which will be dealt with after the presentation. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. This application has been made as a result of Torvine's 21st Century School programme. It's one of 3 school developments in the borough. Each school is to have the same design and will be developed concurrently. The proposal is for a 315-place school with a 52-place nursery. The application site is located within the existing Lantarnham Comprehensive School grounds and relates only to the access road and the hard surface court to the rear of the existing school, which you can actually see. So this is the application site outlined and hatched in red on the screen at the moment. The existing comprehensive school pupils will be transferred to Cumbrawn High, the existing Fairwater school. The proposal includes the demolition of a freestanding single-storey building to enable the access to the proposed school. If you actually go through to the photos, we can see that's, if you go back one, that's the actual building that's to be, I know it's very dark on this photo, but that's the actual building that's to be demolished. It's not the main school of Lantarnham School, it's just this area here which is to be demolished. If you go back to the previous photos, this actually shows the actual site. So it's on this court, the existing tennis courts, where the actual proposed school will actually be located. And the next photo actually shows, so this is the different levels across the site, with the school being located on this area here and the proposed playing fields at the bottom of the actual gradient there. The actual access to the school will be via the northern access off Lantarnham Road, with alterations being undertaken to provide a single access and egress point, whereas at the moment there's a separate access and exit onto the actual school. So this is the actual position along the actual access along the road. With this, 54 neighbours were consulted on the application, with site and press notice also being undertaken. There's actually been 4 objections to the development. The majority of those regarding traffic and actually the future wider development of the actual scheme. I've also had late correspondence from one objector objecting to the loss of trees. This is actually, I've had this confirmed that there aren't any loss of trees within the actual development, but rather that crown lifting will have to take place, which is basically lower branches being removed along this section here. Along a number of trees across there. With this, highways haven't objected to the proposed bill, and the future demolition will be subject to a separate application along with the wider development. They're not being considered as part of this application. These plans actually show the position of the actual school. So this is actually what's being considered. Anything that's in the orange area isn't being considered as part of this application. The next slide show. So this is actually the access in, the parking area and turning area to the front, and the position of the actual proposed school with the play area beyond. The next plans actually show the design of the proposed school, which is majority single-storey, but with an element that's of a 2-storey height, which allows for the hall and dining area to be actually in that area as well. And this is an artist's impression of the proposed school on the actual site. And then finally, this is the actual access arrangements regarding, obviously you can see the existing entrance in would not be used by the school, but just rather a single access down to the proposed school site. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we have one objector to the proposal, Mr. Tamim Chowdhury. Would you care to come down, Mr. Chowdhury, and speak? Councillor Seaborn.
Mr. Chairman, before we go any further, is there a need for me to declare an interest, as my wife is the chair of the interim governing body of the Fairwater High or Cumberland High School?
I don't think so. I'll see if Polly says
That's
different
fine.
on the basis that this is about construction of a new primary school rather than the demolition of the secondary school. Right. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Chowdhury. You've got 5 minutes in which to make your objection. This will be timed, and we are strict in that regard, but please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tamim Chowdhury, residing at 309 to 311 Llantarnam Road, and I speak to you on behalf of the residents of 309 to 311 Llantarnam Road and 313 Llantarnam Road, which is the Curry Box Engine Takeaway, a local business for over 45 years. Our concerns also benefit the residents of 297 to 329 Llantarnam Road, odds only. Now, our concerns relate to the parking availability and the proposed works on the access road and egress. All residents directly opposite the entrance and exit of the school have always struggled with parking. This was further exacerbated in the summer of 2013 with major highway works. Bollards are placed across the pavements and no waiting road markings were added to prevent parking by parents idling during school times and to ease traffic management on Llantarnam Road. Now, apart from the parking, this has had a direct consequence on the actual available footpath for pedestrians, and it's also strained the space available. Furthermore, the disruption and access on Llantarnam Road was affected so badly that it had a knock-on effect on the local business during that period. Now, during consultations before the work commenced, residents were assured that additional parking would be provided. The resultant parking provided after the traffic lights and pedestrian walkway have been undirected. This is due to the new developments of Grayson Way and its residents occupying the parking and the actual distance. It has had an effect on my elderly parents as well as our elderly neighbours, a number of who have disabled parking badges, and the distance from the additional parking is too great a strain on them. Furthermore, the local business has been detrimentally affected. Customers were able to temporarily wait in front of the shop while collecting their food, but have been impeded for the last 2 years. Elderly and disabled customers struggle due to the restrictions imposed. We have one consideration that I would like to put forward related to the proposed access roadworks and benefits all the residents concerned and the local business. A parking area designed to accommodate 20 spaces with designated disabled parking spaces and the provision of a large waiting and drop-off area. The waiting area will help customers in the evening to park in the knowledge that they have done so appropriately. Our suggestion for this parking and waiting area would be on the front section of the unused field or alternatively parallel to the access road. It is currently utilised as a massive roundabout and provides traffic management during school time. However, as the proposed access works dictates that the exit will become entry and exit, the roundabout field will become redundant. The huge number of fields available in the landscape of the school has meant that this field is rarely used. Now, the planning application for the highway layout, which is illustrated up there, shows that major works will be undertaken on the access point and that this would be the ideal time to complete the work simultaneously and efficiently. We would be very grateful if you could consider our concerns. We believe these considerations will benefit our Mason area and locale, providing ease for the residents and ensuring the longevity for the local business. Thank you.
Okay, I just need to check whether the agent for the applicant, Mr. Fahar, is available to respond to the objection. It appears not. In which case, I'm going to ask Paul Wheeldon to address the issues raised by Mr. Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair. We have to look at this planning application on its own merit, basically. This is an application for a new school, a new primary school, which is set back within the site, quite a long way within the site. And it has its own parking provision and bus turning area, and it is quite a good provision within the site itself. it's not very often that you would get a planning application trying to address the issues of the wider area regarding car parking provision. There was a Safe Routes in Communities scheme provided outside the site a number of years ago. There was a full consultation process carried out as part of those proposals, and the scheme that was implemented was the same scheme that was the same as those consultation proposals. There are car parking opportunities fronting the site, and like Mr Chowdhury said, there is a large green area within the site and a small landscaping area outside the site. But my view is that it is not for these proposals to address general car parking provision within an area for businesses or for existing residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Members, you'll note that there was a site inspection on the 8th of April, and at that time some of these issues were raised by the local member, Councillor Daniels, and Paul Wheeldon responded at that time as well. Now, do you wish to debate the matter, particularly obviously in relation to the objection which has been raised? Anybody want to speak? Okay, Councillor Cameron. Thank you.
Sorry, as nobody's asking anything, can I just clarify this kind of an informal space outside the front of the school now that I know can be used in the evenings? Will that remain?
There is an informal space outside the site and within the site. The large green area, which is that area which Norman is pointing out there, that is not part of this application. Neither are the landscaping areas outside. There were bollards placed along the frontage of that site as part of a safety audit for the Safe Routes scheme, and those bollards cover the large areas of footway there. And they were put there to prevent parents parking all over the footways. So it's really difficult when being asked to consider providing car parking spaces on the street or adjacent in those landscaped areas when we've already, as part of the safety audit for the initial school, for the Lantern considered that we would want to put bollards there to prevent people parking all over that area. Whilst I can sympathise with Mr Chowdhury, it is a difficult one for us.
Councillor Ashley.
Yes, I noticed on the site visit you gave us the number of children being accommodated in the school was 315, and the proposal would provide 74 parking spaces, 4 disabled spaces. That's for disabled vehicles or putting down disabled children, 1 delivery space and 1 couch space. Is this a sort of formula, or is this what you assess that this school would be able to provide?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ashley, it's based on South Wales County's parking standards, plus they went a long way, the education department, plus the people that are actually going to be building the school, they went a long way to discussing requirements for buses, requirements for parents, requirements for teachers, and the amount of space that they would require. So we've got the basic standards, but they went a long way with this proposal, like with the others, to discuss openly with the headmistress and the staff of the school as to what their requirements were, and they've provided for the requirements of the school in consultation with the school, which is quite unusual, to be honest.
Can I just come back on this and say that this is virtually 1 to 3, isn't it?
What 1 per 3? You mean 1 per 3 members of pupils?
Looking at that, that's a considerable number of facility in comparison with some of the schools we've got.
Like I said, I'm quite pleased that they discussed it with the school, which is unusual, and it's good provision.
Just be clear that the parking spaces within the new school are intended for genuine visitors and for staff, and not really for parents of the children. There are drop-off points for that purpose. So, yeah. Okay, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Just to get some clarity, really, Paul, about the disabled parking bays that Mr. Chowdhury mentioned, that there's some distance to walk to the parking disabled bays now. Could you give us a bit of information around that?
Yeah, Councillor, it was all part of the consultation process for the Safe Routes in Communities, and the disabled spaces were put there as a consequence of that, or people applied for them. What we can do is, if Mr. Chowdhury wants to drop an email to Highways Transportation, we can take a look at any concerns that they've got along the frontage of there, but it would be separate to this planning application. We would look at it as a highways and traffic department rather than as part of this process.
You couldn't give us any specifics about the distance now, the new distances?
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't, Councillor, no.
Anyone else? No? You ready to vote? Okay, well, if I need a motion of some sort from somebody, please.
Move that we agree the report as on the agenda.
It's been moved by Councillor Davis that the report be approved as in accordance with the recommendations and the conditions. Is that seconded? Councillor Powell seconded it. Thank you. You ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Can I just say, Mr. Chowdhury, well, both Mr. Chowdhurys, that this isn't necessarily the end of the matter as far as you are concerned with your concerns, in as much as this is simply a planning matter relating to the creation of the new primary school. As you'll be aware, the plan of the council is to sell the remainder of the land which currently comprises Lantarnham Comprehensive School and the Leisure Centre. That's a decision which hasn't been finalised yet, but will be taken in due course, I suspect, at which time the frontage of the area which was referred to, including that grassed area, will of course be subject potentially of a new planning application which may have some proposals as part of it which actually help with the problem you've described. Now, I can't guarantee that because I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know how the people are going to, who buy the land, if they buy the land, what they're going to propose to do with it. But in the meantime, as Paul Wheeldon has indicated, if there are particular concerns which you feel ought to be addressed irrespective of this particular decision taken by the Planning Committee, then you're welcome to email him and he will investigate those. So, sorry we can't be any more helpful on this occasion, but hopefully this isn't necessarily the end of the matter for you in terms of your concerns. Thank you. Well, yeah. Yeah. But I understand. Yeah.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak here. But in future, I hope you would consider the people are very poor and people living in the terraced houses, 20 houses down there.
Okay.
We have no parking spaces for ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then already 3 disabled people and no places to park our car. So I hope the Highways Committee should consider it without coming back to them.
Thank you, Mr. Chowdhury. I'm sure that will be looked into. Thanks. The demolition of the infant school and erection of replacement primary school, including landscape engineering and access works at Blenheim Road Community Primary School. This also is going to be subject to a brief presentation by Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. This is a second application for a proposed primary school. As you can see on this plan, once again, the application site doesn't include the whole of the existing primary school. This is the junior block and this is the infant block. The proposal is actually to demolish the infant block and site the new primary school on this location here. The actual photos will show you the condition of the existing primary school with the entrance in off Blenheim Road. The next photo actually shows this is the actual infant block which is proposed to be demolished. And this is a plan to actually, with the access in, again the parking and the position of the proposed primary school. I think the next plan. And once again, this is an impression of the actual primary school on there. It is the same design as the previous primary school that has been before the planning committee.
Thank you, Sarah. There's no objectors in respect of this particular, or at least no speakers in respect of this particular application, so it's direct to you, members, for your comments and questions, please. So, Ashley.
A very brief one on my part. The comment I think was made generally was that the existing school had been very well used and very well accommodated, and it looked very tired, and this particular plan looked like an equitable solution to the site. And certainly an idea of being able to walk or cycle there was a good idea, and it would be a reasonable solution to that site. I think that was my view.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Anyone else wish to speak? You ready to vote? Okay, that's why I was asking, are you ready to vote? Councillor Ashley would wish to move the recommendation, yes, subject to the conditions. That's seconded by Councillor Constant. Are you ready to vote? All those please in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And moving swiftly on then to get there in a moment. Agenda item 8, which is about the primary school, including landscape engineering and associated works at Station Road, Griffithstown, Pontypool, which will be known as Ysgol Panteg. Norman.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we had a site visit again on the 8th of April with regard to this site. Just a correction in terms of the information given at the site visit. I think I said it was a 315-place primary school. This is actually a 420-place primary school, which is proposed. Access off Station Road via a new access point to the south of Network Rail's existing access point to a parking area to the north of the proposed school. Proposed school effectively in midpoint in the application site with landscaped area and playing surfaces to the south. A cycleway connection will be made to the existing cycleway and provision for pedestrian access from the new residential development to the south, which is on the former Avesta Steelworks site. That's another plan showing the proposal. And just to confirm that the existing access will be retained from Network Rail and a new access to the south with improvements including a controlled pedestrian crossing across Station Road. It's an artist's impression. This is a site that currently exists, partly remediated site with housing to the north in addition. That's looking towards the new housing to the south. This is the access for Network Rail, which skirts from Station Road right around down to the railway. And that is the access currently off Station Road, and as I say, it will be subject to movement across to the south to form a new access. Within the report, it states that there's an objection from Network Rail. However, this morning or late yesterday, we received confirmation that they withdrawing their objection. However, they've listed a number of points they want to wish to be conditioned. These deal with private matters effectively in terms of interference with their property, and we feel that those comments can be added as a note to the planning permission should members approve. They are, in the main, private matters. There are some issues relating to signage, etc., which we will consider in terms of the final approval for the detailed design of the access. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Norman. Anybody wish to comment or ask questions in relation to this report? Councillor Parish.
Yes. I know this is built on an old industrial site, and I would have thought the contamination issues were sorted, but reading the report, there is a possibility that unforeseen contamination could be something for the future, and I'm a little bit concerned about that, as it's a school.
Certainly, there is the remediation that's required on this part of the site hasn't been completed. However, that is a requirement of the previous planning permission, and there is conditions requiring verification of the remediation and the landscaping, etc., that prior to occupation of the school, and that is a prime concern in relation to this site, Chair.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Parish? It's also dealt with in condition number 10. So
I have seen the conditions, but it's still a little bit worrying to me, that there's a possibility that contamination will have to be dealt with.
Well, but the condition says that any unforeseen contamination encountered during development shall be notified to the local planning authority as soon as practicable and then dealt with. So clearly that is something that could come back to us if need be. Hopefully not. Okay. Councillor Ashley.
This business objection by Network Rail, is this one of the more outward proposals for the site for Siwa for the Griffithstown station? Is that why they're... Because I have seen a study for that.
No, that hasn't been mentioned in correspondence, I don't believe. No, and they've not mentioned...
That study.
I'm not aware of it myself, personally.
All right, I'll keep that one out of it. It's just that there was a proposal I saw some time ago for a potential station. Not a very serious one, I don't think.
Well, we're trying to deal with serious matters here, Councillor Ashley. Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Chair. If Norman could skip back one to the entrance, please, there. I walked down to that entrance there for 30 years, and I was always under the impression that was a right-of-way. Down past the... or down through the steelworks, over the footbridge, and over the New Inn, that there was a public right-of-way all the way through there. Is that still standing?
I understand that it's diverted. Maybe Paul can answer that.
Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. My understanding is that the right-of-way at some time was diverted as part of the Pantex Steelworks proposals. It was diverted to where you see the pine end of the house, this end, Norman, this house facing us, it runs along there and then runs through the housing site. Then it comes down runs down a track and then on an overbridge that takes you over the railway line and then takes you through the substation and then out to the New Inn area. That is there, but I don't think it was on the. It may have been on the line of that road, the road that you see, but I think it was diverted. So there is a public right of way there, but I think it may have been diverted. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Just to confirm about the reference in the site inspection, about the site meeting, about the drop-off spaces. Is that it's, in all likelihood, as it's with the nature of the school, that mostly it'd be a lot of children being transported to and from the school. I'm assuming that these drop-off spaces are spaces that can be that can be used by coaches, minibuses, and so forth.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor. Yeah, I don't know if you've got to show the plan there, Norman, that you had. I mean, this is a Welsh medium school, and they do tend to operate a bit differently to other schools. And there are facilities there. The blue line there is quite a large facility for bus drop-off points. There are spaces, obviously, there for parents to drop off for local children, because no doubt some local children in Griffithstown may choose to go to the school. So what they've done in consultation with Welsh medium schools again is to come up with the best proposal that they can and the best estimate for buses, for drop-off and for teachers. So again, I think this is a fairly good proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Ashley?
Yeah, I've just noticed that if you're putting coaches and stuff in there, so they go across the cycleway, what's the preference going to be on the cycleway, for the buses or for the cycleway? Because obviously you're selling this on the point you can use the cycleway there. That at the moment is an unrestricted cycleway.
It would be the same as most cycleways that cross highways, to be honest, is that the highway has priority. In this instance, if you think that generally the school is a burst within the morning and it's a burst within the afternoon, and then generally in the day there's not a lot of traffic using that school access road. On general highways, if you take the highway that's just north of this, which is the road that leads to the depot, there's quite some South Street, there's quite some significant use. So there are a lot of places where cycleways cross main highways, and it is for the cyclists to either dismount to cross the road, but there will be facilities for them. There will be adequate signing there, there'll be adequate corduroy paving, etc., same as you would expect on any crossing point. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor.
Anyone else? Are you ready to make up your minds? Councillor Seaborn?
I would like to move the recommendation, Chair, plus the 18...
conditions?
Yeah, conditions and the 5 notes to the applicant, please.
Which presumably you mean to include the latest position with regard to the Network Rail objection and the conditions they wish to be included as part of the decision. Yeah, lovely. Okay, that's moved. Is that seconded? Councillor Parish, thank you. You ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous as well. Okay. Well, that concludes our business, other than to say the next meeting of the Planning Committee is scheduled for the 12th of May, which is only a couple of weeks away. There'll be hopefully a report back on the hillside development at that meeting, and there might also be a report relating to the Specialist and Critical Care Centre. If that is subject of report to that meeting, then because I'm a member of the Aneurin Bevan Health Board, I will be stepping down from the chair for that particular report. So I would ask that an experienced senior member perhaps take over the chair at that point. But we'll deal with that as and when we get to the meeting itself. So thank you very much. Thanks all to the visitors as well, and I declare the meeting closed.